When an authority must travel anywhere in the modern world, he takes his bodyguards with him. In Roman times, emperors and other authorities did not go anywhere without theirs. The lictors. The word lictor comes from the Etruscans, a powerful people who once ruled parts of the Italian peninsula. From them the Romans inherited the concept of personal guards, who embodied both discipline and sacred duty. The Etruscans had long practiced the tradition of attendants bearing symbols of authority, and the Romans adopted and refined this idea, transforming it into one of the most recognizable features of their political life. According to the historian Titus Livius, the first lictors were chosen by the mythical founder of Rome, Romulus. He selected 12 men to serve in this prestigious position, though the reason for this exact number is still debated. One ancient tale claims that a priest saw 12 birds in a vision, symbolizing Romulus's divine right to rule. Others argue that the number reflected the 12 Etruscan city-states, each represented by a single guardian. Over time, these 12 men came to represent not only divine authority, but also the strength and unity of Rome itself, each one a living emblem of order and justice. Whatever the origin, those 12 men became the living symbols of Rome's authority and order. To be a lictor required integrity, strength, and the status of a free Roman citizen, a man considered worthy of protecting power itself. Their appointment was an honor, reflecting both trust and social standing. Most lictors were handpicked by the statesman or general they were to guard, ensuring unshakable personal loyalty. Their service was not merely protective but ceremonial. Their presence announced that law and power were in motion. In Rome they wore the toga, a mark of civic dignity and peace. But outside the city, their clothing changed to the crimson military cloak known as the sagum, symbolizing readiness for battle and authority beyond the civic boundary. During funerals, they appeared in solemn black robes, a reminder of mortality even among the mighty. Their pay differed with rank and patron, but on average it equaled about 600 sesterces, a respectable wage that placed them among the more trusted public servants of their time. Some lictors served for decades, accompanying generals on campaigns and magistrates through provinces, witnessing both triumphal processions and moments of public judgment. Lictors protected all officials who held imperium, senators, magistrates, and especially consuls. They carried the fasces, bundles of rods bound around an axe, the timeless emblem of lawful power and discipline. The rods represented unity and authority through collective strength, while the axe signified the ultimate right to enforce the law, even by death. Inside Rome's sacred boundary, the pomerium, the axe was removed, for no Roman citizen could be executed there. Beyond that line, however, the blades returned, signifying the right to punish, to command, and to enforce. This distinction illustrated the delicate balance between civil law and military power that underpinned Roman governance. Wherever their master walked, the forum, the baths, or the crowded streets, his lictors followed in strict formation. They cleared pathways, silenced mobs, and stood as living walls between ruler and danger. Their presence alone was often enough to command respect, as every Roman understood the authority that marched beside them. Only when addressing a higher authority or entering a free city could a Roman leader dismiss his lictors, demonstrating humility before law and tradition. In such moments, the lictors lined up before him in precise order, led by the proximus, the chief among them. Every movement was ritual, every gesture steeped in centuries of Roman discipline. In times of unrest or riot, the lictors had the power to strike, arrest, or disperse any citizen on command. Their authority came directly from the imperium they served, an extension of Rome's iron will and an instrument through which justice and control were maintained. The number of lictors assigned to a man showed exactly how powerful he was in the hierarchy. A dictator like Julius Caesar commanded 24 of them, 12 on each side. a striking display of authority and divine sanction. Consuls and proconsuls typically had 12 or 6, reflecting their rank and jurisdiction. During the empire, even ordinary governors were often seen surrounded by their own miniature guard of honor, marking their place in the vast administrative structure of Rome. When Augustus became emperor, he maintained the sacred 12, a symbolic nod to Rome's legendary origins and to the balance he sought between monarchy and republican tradition. But under Domitian, the number doubled to 24 once again, restoring the grandeur and commanding presence once reserved for the republic's dictators. The sight of those rods and axes gleaming in the sun sent a message none dared ignore. Authority was present, and with it, the full weight of Roman law. The lictors marched ahead of their master, parting crowds with rhythmic strikes of their fasces. Even emperors themselves, men who commanded legions and ruled continents, walked safer beneath the watchful eyes of these guards. In ceremonies, their steps marked the cadence of Roman order, precise, solemn and unstoppable. Their discipline reflected the very structure of the empire, controlled, ritualized and unyielding. At public trials, they stood behind the magistrate's chair, ready to enforce every verdict pronounced. To see their red cloaks in the streets was to witness Rome's law made flesh. They were both servants and symbols, a living reminder that power always traveled armed. And though centuries would pass, their image endured in stone reliefs, mosaics, and the memory of empire. In extraordinary cases, lictors could attend non-Romans, foreign kings, or dignitaries during state funerals. Such acts honored Rome's allies and displayed her magnanimity before the world. These ceremonies, steeped in ritual and symbolism, were powerful demonstrations of Roman respect toward those who had served her interests or stood as her friends. The presence of the lictors in such events emphasized the reach of Roman authority and the dignity it extended even beyond its borders. Yet the lictors' role was not eternal. As the empire aged, their relevance slowly began to fade. The rise of the Praetorian Guard overshadowed them, placing the emperor's safety in military hands. What had once been a civic and religious office, charged with both symbolism and protection, was gradually replaced by a professional and militarized force. The fasces, once carried with reverence as an emblem of lawful power, began to lose its meaning as emperors turned increasingly toward legions and guards for protection. By the late empire, as chaos and corruption spread through the provinces, even the proud fasces lost their sacred weight, and the lictors who once embodied the majesty of the Republic and early empire found themselves relics of a vanishing tradition. The once revered lictors dwindled in number, their duties absorbed by other imperial offices. Some were dismissed quietly, fading into anonymity as administrative reforms reshaped the old order. Others perished as civil wars consumed the heart of Rome, their loyalty proving fatal in a world where allegiance changed with each new claimant to the throne. Alongside them, the Praetorians too fell, undone by their own ambition and intrigue. The two great symbols of Roman protection, civic and military, were extinguished together, victims of the empire's own internal decay. With their disappearance, a chapter of Roman discipline and ritual came to an end. Yet history would not forget the men who once carried the fasces through marble streets. Sculptures, coins and imperial reliefs continued to depict them, eternally guarding the rulers they once served. Artists carved their likenesses in triumphal arches and public monuments, preserving their solemn posture and unyielding gaze. In these frozen images, they still stand watch, embodiments of an authority that once governed the known world. Even the very emblem of the fasces survived, later adopted as a universal sign of lawful authority. From Roman forums to modern capitals, its symbol still whispers of unity through strength and the binding of power through discipline. It reminds the world that order, once forged by the will of Rome, can echo across millennia. Governments and institutions would later revive the fasces motif, often without realizing the full depth of its ancient meaning. the merging of justice, authority, and duty under one sacred trust. The lictors' story is more than history. It is a mirror of civilization's relationship with power. Every empire, ancient or modern, carries its own guardians, visible or unseen, who embody the ideals and fears of their age. Their presence reassures the ruler, but also warns the ruled, reminding both that power must always be accompanied by vigilance. The lictor's steady march beside his master spoke of both protection and restraint, a visible reminder that authority, though supreme, was bound by law and ritual. Authority has always needed its watchers, those who walk beside it, rods in hand, balancing obedience with order. In the disciplined step of a lictor, we can still hear the heartbeat of the Roman state, the same rhythm that once marched across the known world, binding provinces through fear, respect, and a shared sense of destiny. The echo of those footsteps can still be felt in every society that seeks to balance power with justice and ceremony with strength. Long after their extinction, their legend endures, half warrior and half ritual. They were not merely guards, they were the walking embodiment of Rome's divine order, a living testament to the authority of law. Every stroke of their fasces upon the ground echoed the presence of command and the unbroken will of the state. Through them, the invisible became tangible, and the abstraction of government took human form. Though time erased their footsteps, their legacy survived the fall of the empire. Artists, scholars, and historians still speak their names, recalling their discipline and their symbolic role in preserving Rome's dignity. Their unwavering devotion to duty, their ritual precision, and their loyalty became models for centuries of organized power to come. Monarchs, republics, and empires alike drew inspiration from their image, seeing in them the ideal servants of lawful authority. From marble statues to modern emblems, their symbol remains a mark of strength and governance. These men may have vanished, but the shadow of their fasces still falls across history, solemn and enduring, guardians of law and eternal icons of Rome's grandeur.